Welcome to the WealthStack Podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Rosic, the Director of WealthStack Content Solutions. And today, we're flipping the script a little bit and taking a break from talking to tech vendors because I'm joined by someone who's actually using the technology. Jordan Raniszeski, CFP and co-founder of Carnegie Wealth, launched his firm in March of 2023 and built his stack from the ground up. And with 9 CFPs on the team, Carnegie is on a mission to be tech-enabled, not tech-dependent, while delivering a deeply human client experience. So Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So like I said, it's always fun for me to kind of turn the tables a bit and hear about the folks that actually have to go through the process of selecting technology at their firms. So looking forward to getting into the conversation, but I actually want to start with your background. And this will probably be the hardest question you'll get this whole conversation because I want to know what makes Jordan, well, Jordan, both personally and professionally.
Sure. Yeah. So, professionally, I've been an advisor for about 20 years. I started my career in public accounting before I moved into a financial planning role at a large bank. Ultimately, I found my way to the brokerage side of the business in 2007. So right before the financial crisis, great time to be in the business. I've been with the same business partner for almost all that time. And we built one of the largest practices at our former employer before we broke away to found Carnegie in 2023. Right now we're at about 1.7 billion. We've got 10 lead advisors, about to be 25 total team members. On the personal side, I've been married for 17 years. I've got 4 children, from 5 to 15. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I was actually able to take my older 3 down to the national championship game earlier this year in Atlanta, which was cool. And a random fun fact, my oldest daughter is actually more famous than me. She has 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube, doing dance and makeup and get ready with me videos that are targeted at preteen girls. So we get stopped a lot in random places by young girls that want to take pictures with her, which is kind of funny. So that's me.
Well, your career is impressive, but heck, she's already off and rolling at what, 15?
It's crazy. Yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to your daughter because that is incredibly impressive. Does she have an advisor? She's going to need someone to help manage all this.
We're working on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I want you to take us back to 2023. Walk us through that journey and what ultimately led you to that decision to start your own firm.
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, so we'd spent almost our entire careers at the same firm. And we'd seen that firm change dramatically over the time that we were there. And along the way, our business had grown tremendously. And it was starting to feel a little bit like we'd outgrown the place that we were. We couldn't do the marketing and the branding that we wanted to. We couldn't really hire and grow younger team members the way that we wanted to and kind of build out a career path. And the big one, like for this podcast, we couldn't build our own tech stack. And we were saddled with what the firm provided, which wasn't always good. And so, we weren't very educated on the independent and the RIA world. We'd spent our whole career in one place. And so we worked with a consultant that helped us to explore all the different options that were out there, including staying at our current broker dealer and moving more to an independent offering. In the end, we just felt like the most compelling value prop that we saw was from LPL and Strategic Wealth. And we felt like going full RIA from where we were was a little bit too big of a leap at that time, just coming from the bank environment. And we were really intrigued by all the support that LPL could bring to the table for us on branding and real estate, and then especially on technology and kind of consulting with us on that. We picked every part of our brand, every stitch of furniture, every piece of technology that we use here, we chose ourselves. But we had help along the way and guidance and kind of through that process. So it was a really good fit for us in doing that.
And I think I stand corrected. I think I said you had 9 CFPs since we last talked. So have you added another team member? Is it 10 now?
No, I think we're still at 9. I think we're still at 9 on the CFP side for now, but we are in the process of hiring 2 more that there will be CFPs. So that'll take us to 11 total.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you're on a bit of a rocket ship right now.
Yes.
Well, very exciting. So going back to what you mentioned about the tech stack, because obviously, like you said, you had to start from scratch. What was that process like? And what were maybe some of your non-negotiables from day one that you knew, like, we have to have this, we didn't have access to this before, we know we want this part of our stack?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was a blast. That was like my favorite part of the whole process because I love trying all the new tools that I hadn't been able to use for years and knew that were out there. So honestly, it was mind blowing to me to see how much the fintech space had evolved over, over the years and sort of I loved the ability to consider all the different options and have support to kind of, bring things to the table for us. So I think the non-negotiables for us were a core financial planning tool that was intuitive, user friendly, visually appealing, easy to use, like on the fly with clients, like in the room. A performance reporting tool that could deliver, really robust data to both us and to our clients beyond what kind of the normal BD systems online offering was, and then a contact management system that helped us to manage a large book of business with multiple team members touching different relationships, workflows, templates, like all that kind of stuff. So ideally, obviously, all those things talking to each other and with our BD system to make, our lives easier and as efficient as possible. And then we added a bunch of things on top of that, but those were like the big three, I would say, for us.
Yep. Get the core in place first.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the context, and I want to jump into our first segment that I call Stats All, folks, for you Looney Tunes fans out there. And the stat I have for you today, Jordan, that we're going to ruminate on is, according to Fidelity's 2024 advisor community study, 83% of advisors say technology is critical to delivering a better client experience, but only 27% feel their current tech stack is fully optimized. Obviously, yeah, that's a massive gap between expectations and execution. So why do you think so many firms are still struggling to bridge that divide? And how do you think about avoiding that trap when you're building Carnegie Stack?
So, I mean, two fairly obvious things jump to mind when I hear that. I think the first thing is that a lot of advisors are in places where they don't have full choice over the tools that they're using. Someone at the top somewhere who probably doesn't even work with clients has made those decisions on their behalf, and they're just using whatever they're given. And so they're sitting there saying, these tools are important, but I can't choose them. There's other stuff out there I'd like to be able to use. The second thing is, quite honestly, a lot of advisors are cheap and they're unwilling to make the investments in the things that would help them to grow their business, whether that's staffing or technology or anything else. One of the things that's been a big thing for us just over the many years is our willingness to invest in the business. And, now being on the independent side, tech is a big part of that, and being willing to invest in new tools and try things out. And so I think that is what jumps to mind to me in terms of creating that gap is either, people know that the tools are out there, they know that they're important, but they're not willing to pay for them, or they know they're out there and they're unable to access them because of where they sit.
And you've said that Carnegie is tech-enabled, not tech-dependent. What does that mean in practice?
So I was actually just having a conversation with some of our team members yesterday about this topic because we're trying to design a training program for our new class of associate wealth advisors. So they're bringing in, like I said, a couple younger CFPs. So when I started in public accounting, they made us do tax return, at least a few tax returns manually without the software, because they wanted us to understand how a tax return actually works, right? And the message was, look, if you don't understand what's actually happening underneath the hood, the technology can lead you astray. And I think that same idea is kind of how we try to approach things in terms of technology. Like, the tools are intended to make you more efficient, but they're not intended to replace thinking. And we don't ever want our people so dependent on technology that they can't answer a client's question without it, or they still have to be able to think, right? And so, we want the technology to maximize their efficiency and create the best client experience that we can, but we don't want it to be in lieu of thinking and being an advisor.
And speaking of the education aspect, I'm just selfishly curious. Do you have a CTO? Are you planning on having any type of CTO on your firm or head of technology to kind of manage all this ultimately?
I think that long term we'll probably need to add a role that's maybe a combination of CTO and some other, kind of executive types of functions. I don't think we're quite there yet. We're kind of piecing it together. Obviously, there's only so much money to go around as we, make investments in the business, but I think it would be great as we go forward to have somebody that really can, deep dive into this stuff and make sure that we're using the right tools, that they're all, talking to each other the way they should be and all that stuff. It's so for now, we kind of have to piece it together.
Well, I just think it's so interesting, especially for independent firms, because the tech and business strategies have become really one and the same now. They used to kind of be these separate business lines, but it is all entangled into one, it seems
It
like.
is, no doubt, for sure. Yep.
So I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about utilizing LPL, because you chose LPL Strategic Wealth Services really as your backbone. So walk us through that decision and how you layered on top of it with more specialized tools.
Yeah. So, I think that one of the things that we loved about Strategic Wealth was the consulting aspect of it and the fact that they were going to be alongside us through the process of building out the tech stack. And it also was great in the sense that we were able to get them to provide those three core technologies that I talked about. So the planning tool, performance reporting, and the contact management. So, that was a great starting point. And then they helped us to demo all the tools that we might consider, whether it was eMoney or Money Guide Pro or Right Capital, Black Diamond, Orion, Redtail, Wealthbox. We kind of had the whole buffet in front of us to try out. And we knew, we were able to kind of work through that, get to kind of those core three pieces like I talked about. And then we had a whole lot of fun over the next year experimenting with all the other tools that you can kind of tack onto that, Holistiplan, Y charts, Andes, OneHub, Precise FP. So we kind of just went through all of those. I mean, it took us a little while to honestly to figure out the ones that we felt like added value for our process, that were ones that were getting enough use by the team and that fit our budget. And Strategic Wealth and any consultant can only tell you so much about that stuff. Like, they don't know how your business works on the inside. And honestly, you don't know whether you're going to get full utilization out of the tool until you actually use it. And so, the cool thing is a lot of those tools allow you to go month to month. You don't have a huge time commitment. And that was really helpful to us as we experimented with things and tried different pieces. And as we thought about our process and what might fit into it. And LPL, Strategic Wealth was there kind of all along the way to kind of help, give us guidance and recommendations and things like that.
So are you looking at ROI of these tools, especially maybe for ones that aren't necessarily even directly client facing, the things that you use internally, how are you looking at that within your firm?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that ROI and especially like you said with a non-client facing tool is challenging. I think that what I've figured out over time is you kind of get a feel for how valuable they are as you use it. And you can kind of lay it against the other tools that you're using and saying, gosh, like, I think this one's a lot more valuable. And then you look at the price that you're paying and you kind of get a feel for it based on what you're paying for other tools, or you're out there in the marketplace and thinking, gosh, I'd love to have that tool. Would we miss this one if we got rid of it, right? Like, if we replaced this one with that one, would we miss it? Or could we cut down to fewer licenses? Like, if only a couple people on the team are using this one, so I feel I as much as I would love to have like a direct ROI measure on that stuff, I feel like it's a little bit more feel than it is, data driven.
And you mentioned that you're testing everything. You're probably still testing things now. What does your evaluation framework look like, before adopting a new solution? Kind of what boxes does it need to check within your firm to say, yep, we're going to implement this and integrate it?
So when he listens to this, our CFO will laugh when I say this, but my approach is to just buy it and see if we like it. Honestly, like, I mean, if it passes the smell test up front, like, it feels like something that we could use, that we could add to our process, that sounds cool. I'm always inclined to buy it and try it, provided there's not some long-term commitment. Put it in the hands of our people that do stuff every day and see what they think of it. I think that that's an easier way to determine if it's, useful and there's ROI there than it is to, I mean, you can see all the demos, all the sales pitches, you can kind of all that stuff, right, is helpful. But, if you're evaluating against other tools and you're seeing what, the effectiveness in practice, like, it's just, you kind of have to use it. And so that's just been our approach.
And tech wins are obviously great if you hit on a tool that absolutely works for you. But let's be real, because the stack journey probably isn't always that linear, especially when you're going through it the first time. So what's maybe one tech decision you'd do differently if you could go back through this process again?
Yeah. Okay. So let me think. So we ultimately did rectify this one, but our first choice for contact management was one that we pretty immediately regretted. Thankfully, we were introduced to WealthBox like right about the time we were about to like pull our hair out, and so it actually was a story with a happy ending. But like um, in our defense, a little bit, WealthBox hadn't been approved when we were by our BD when we were originally picking, and so it kind of all worked out. But that was one. You use contact management maybe more than any other tool in the entire business, and so we've found that to be a much more intuitive solution, a lot easier to work with in a big team. I think that maybe the tool we were using before would have been fine if it was like a solo advisor with like a solo CA or something like that. But like in a team-based environment where you've got multiple hands in client relationships and stuff like that, it just wasn't working, for us. I mean, there've been a lot of, other than that, I'd say there's been a lot of tools that we loved in demo, but we just found that they weren't useful enough as we kind of went through, or they just didn't justify the cost. We've seen, so I wouldn't say that's as much making a mistake as it is just part of our process, right? So it's just like, yeah, there were things that I thought were going to be awesome and super valuable, and they turned out not to be, but that's okay. Like that's just part of the journey, I think, with this stuff.
And in talking with you, prior to recording this, you've said that client impact comes first, efficiency second when evaluating new tools, which I think is interesting because you see all the headlines and everything's about efficiency and streamlining and, fixing operations, but you are clearly focused on the client impact. So why is that your North Star?
Because like the clients are the entire reason we exist. And serving them and making their lives better is why we're here. And so like to me, if a tool doesn't provide a positive client impact, then why are we using it? Like, and we've honestly, going back to what I just said a second ago, like we've had a lot of tools that we personally thought were great. Like we thought they were additive, and then they just didn't resonate with clients for whatever reason. Like they were fine, but we didn't get the impact from the client side that we thought we were going to get. And we're like, okay, well then we don't need to be paying for this if we are not getting the feedback from the client where they love it, they think it's great. So efficiency is important. I don't want to minimize efficiency, and if it's not driving efficiency in your business, then it's probably not something you need to be investing in. But we always try to put clients first in those decisions and think about what kind of client experience are we creating, even if it's a back end tool, right? It's something that they're not seeing, but is it making it easier for us to provide a better client experience? That's always most important for us.
And I'm curious too, I always love when I get to talk to advisors, because how much do clients actually care about the technology that you're using? Because I often hear it's just like, we just want something that's easy to use, intuitive, and that's it. So whatever the advisor has, fine, just as long as, I can access it easily. But I'm curious from your perspective what you've heard.
I think that there's a spectrum for that. Like, I think that there's people who are absolutely on the spectrum, the end that you just said, right? They're on the like, whatever, like, our stats are shocking to me sometimes when I look at utilization on tools, like that a lot of clients don't even log in online. Like they don't even look at their accounts. And I don't know, like I haven't dug into it in terms of the demographics and the age and stuff like that. But then we have people on the other end of the spectrum that like, that's all they want to talk about. I just had a meeting earlier, younger client, he's in his 30s. And he wanted me to walk through every tool that we use and explain like why would I go to this one, or why would I go to this one, explain what this one can do. And so it's super important. I would argue for the younger client base, they want better tools. And so I think that the more we continue to grow and the tools continue to get better, more integrated with each other, stuff like that, I think the more it'll appeal to the younger audience. And I would say on the older end of the client spectrum, they don't care as much. I think they're more like whatever we use is fine with them, and it's more about like the other parts of the experience that we create.
And what about, I have to ask then about your client portal experience, because that always seems to be a point of contention for folks. Everyone wants the single sign on, everything to be easily integrated. So curious, what your focus and process was around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I echo probably all the other things that you've heard on that. Is the problem, at least as I diagnose it, is you choose these tools in isolation because they're the best tool for that particular thing. But then you end up with multiple tools that don't, they talk to each other, but but again, from a client portal standpoint or a, an integration standpoint, and then, or you could go to like the all-in-one sort of, tool, but then it's like they're substandard and all the pieces of them are substandard. So it's like, I don't know what the long-term solution to that is. I'd love for someone to find the answer, the holy grail when it comes to that. We haven't found it yet. Right now, we have clients logging into 3 different systems, and we try to make it easy on our website for them to do that and coach them through why you would access one versus another. But yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. I would definitely argue that.
Yes, it's funny because I just attended an event and that was just a point of contention for a lot of folks. So you let me know and I'll let you know if I ever come across anything.
I'm on that bandwagon for sure.
So let's talk AI a little bit. Obviously,
sure.
On a tech podcast here, we'd be remiss if we weren't talking AI right now, since it is the topic of every conversation. You're using it, but it seems like you've been maybe a little cautious. So where has it actually made a meaningful impact in your business, and kind of how are you evaluating solutions right now?
Yeah. I mean, I personally love AI. I think it's the most revolutionary technology in my entire lifetime. I think we're starting to use it in so many different ways. My favorite tool from a business standpoint is Jump AI.
Yep.
We use it for transcribing meeting notes. We've built client review meeting templates. It knows how to drop the information in exactly how we want to see it. It can tell the difference between a review meeting and a prospect meeting and an internal meeting. It's fantastic. I think the AI transcription can use a little work inside of Jump, but I also understand. I think they're using like maybe a year-old or an 18-month-old sort of like rubric or whatever they use for the actual training of the AI. So maybe like when the next version comes out, it will pick up on things a little bit better. But it's still a massive time saver. Like hours per week in the aggregate across our firm, worth every penny that we pay for it. We also use Holistaplan, which is AI based for reading and interpreting tax returns. We love Holistaplan. We use it a lot. It's so much better. Like thinking back to my like public accounting days of entering tax projections into BNA software yourself, and then comparing like this is like done in 2 seconds. It feels like, and it's awesome. So, and we also partner with Helios. On our portfolio construction and management. They have a ton of AI embedded in their processes, and some of the models that we use are AI driven. So love that. And then personally, I use Perplexity all the time just for research. I use Chat for helping me just think through, issues and anything that has some complexity. I mean, we obviously can't put client information into any of those tools, but I don't like really see the need for that. I use them more as conceptual or like thinking partners more than anything. Like I'm trying to think through something or, a framework for something, and I use it as a way to kind of organize my own thinking to some extent. And so, I have a big appetite for trying to, different tools. And I downloaded Grok the other day to try to, play around with that. And so, but yeah, I mean, as far as from a business standpoint, obviously compliance is super important. We need to make sure that the tools are approved and that anything we're using client data with is all good with, from that standpoint. But we're always looking for new ways to drive efficiency. And it seems like the new tools that we see tend to be, have AI embedded in them.
Well, it seems like you're certainly then creating a culture where it's from top down to encourage adoption and utilization of these types of solutions. So that's always great to hear, because we are certainly at a tipping point that if you're an advisor, at least not dabbling with these solutions, you're more than likely going to get left behind. It seems to be the consensus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the way we approach it. We try to, say, hey, look, if we're not evolving, we're not staying ahead with this stuff, we're going to fall behind.
Sure. So what's the big tech focus for Carnegie, say maybe in the next year or so? What trends matter to you, and maybe what's just noise at this point?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think full utilization of Jump with across the firm is a big one for us. I mean, we've probably got 3 or 4 advisors out of the 10 using it right now, maybe up to 5. We need to have everybody using it because it will drive efficiency across the board. And so, that's part of our, we need to educate better. We need to train more. We need to have resources available for troubleshooting and things like that. But that's a big focus for me. And then like on my end, it's always like looking for new cool stuff, I guess is the focus. I always love going out to San Diego for LPL Focus for that reason, because all the tech vendors are there and we get to see new things that are coming or available. And so I always enjoy that. Love listening to your podcast and hearing new things that are, out there, and just trying to find new ideas for, like, I'll hear something like, that's cool. Like that could fit. I could see how we could use that. So, and then just always talking to other advisors. That's always kind of the best way. I love going to the conferences at LPL and hearing some of the other, large firms and how they're, going about their tech stack.
Yeah, love it. Well, for the first time ever, I will be at LPL this year, so I will see you there.
Awesome. For sure.
Love it. Well, Jordan, it is time for segment 2 of this episode that I call Ask Us Anything, where I've gone out to the social universe and asked folks to submit questions they want answered by you. And we had a few folks slide into the DMs this past week. So 2 questions for you to be put in the hot seat if you're ready.
Okay, go for it. Ready.
All right. First one came from LinkedIn. What's your advice for someone launching a new firm who's totally overwhelmed by the number of tech options out there? Where do you even start?
Yeah, so it's a totally valid question, because I do think it's overwhelming. I would say starting with the core, sort of like your question earlier, of like, what are the most important tools, and stay focused on that just in the short term, right? Like, so what's your planning tool? What's your contact management tool? If you want to have a performance reporting tool, like stay on those key things. And then you can start to expand beyond that and start thinking about how you practice, right? Because it always comes back to that. Like what functions are you doing now that could be improved by technology? If you're not doing tax projections for clients, or that's not a conversation, then you don't need to look at Plan or Precise FP or any of those. Like, you don't need to do that. If you're, trying to find ways to be more efficient with your time, I think that's an area where, the tools like Jump and things like that could start to be additive. But I think it's staying focused on that core is sort of the most important thing in the short term.
Yes, get your CRM, your investment management, your financial planning taken care of, and then you can start kind of, spoking out, as I would say, and adding things.
Right.
So great advice. Second question for you, Jordan, that we got. How do you get your team, especially maybe more traditional advisors, comfortable with new tech? How are you driving adoption and encouraging it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a challenge. We're blessed to have a lot of younger team members who are even more comfortable with tech than I am. So they do kind of help to form a critical mass for new tech and sort of spread the gospel within the firm a little bit of like, oh, you got to try this tool, and trying to emphasize, the benefits of it. But I think the big thing is just training. And I think it's being vocal about it, and it's explaining what are the benefits and why it can help you be more efficient, and what can it do for your clients. I think that honestly, that's one of the benefits, one of many, in my opinion, to a firm being run by someone who still works with clients. Because I think that since I actually use the tools myself, I can tell the other advisors why I think it would be helpful for them. And, I think that, it's important for them to hear like, okay, I'm actually using this and I'm telling them why I think it would be helpful. And then beyond that, it's having dedicated resources in-house to help with training and troubleshooting, and people that are kind of like the experts on particular tools that you can say, hey, use this tool. If you run into problems, talk to this team member and they can help you with it. They know all the ins and outs of it. Just to give them a little bit more comfort that they're not flying without a parachute, and they can, tap into resources as they need to.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've built a culture then that is willing and able, I should say, to adopt new technology. So that is fantastic. Now, Jordan, it is our final segment, maybe our most entertaining one, that I affectionately call Stack It or Whack It. And yes, I do have t-shirts that go along with it, so I'll have to bring you one at LPL. So basically, I throw out a few tech trends or concepts, and you tell me if you'd stack it means yes, use it, love it, or whack it, like hard pass, no, that's insane. So
got it.
First one I've got for you, chatbot onboarding tools that handle initial data collection. Stack it or whack it?
I think whack it for us. I could see the benefit of this if you were like data collecting at scale. But we're a lot more customized in the way that we do things. We're not trying to bring on 100 clients a month or something like that. So, I mean, I definitely could see if you were, more volume oriented, maybe lower AUM, a little bit higher volume. I could see the benefit of that a lot because you want to get through those early stages of data gathering as efficiently as possible, whereas we're doing that more with a real person involved.
All right. I like it. So, reading up on your bio and things like that, you noted that you are a math and puzzles guy. So how about this? Gamified onboarding tools that turn client discovery into a logic puzzle or personality quiz. Stack it for fun with function or whack it for turning planning into a game show.
Stack it 100%. I love this idea. And we've done some stuff like this manually, like with priority cards. I don't know if you've ever seen those where clients take a deck of cards with different life priorities and they organize them manually. Or like Andy's does their risk assessments, got some of those like sort of personality questions. This would kind of take that a step further, and I would be all about this. I mean, I love personality profiling. I love DISC. I love Enneagram. I like anything that gives me more information about who somebody is in a kind of an efficient way where I can sort of understand them. I think would be valuable. So I would love this idea.
All right. And then bonus question. You're one of my first guests. I actually have 3 of these because you mentioned Notre Dame at the beginning of the conversation. And I am very much ready for football season. This is the time of the year where it feels like the slog because there's no good sports on.
Yep.
So I'm ready. So then I have to ask then, stack or whack Notre Dame's 2025 season?
Stack it. I'm all in. We're going, what is it, 16-0 now. So.
All right. I love it. Jordan, this has just been an incredible conversation. Thanks for giving us just really an under the hood look at your firm. Appreciate your time. So please just tell listeners where they can learn more about you and Carnegie Wealth and who you serve.
Yeah. So our website is carnegieprivatewealth.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jordan Raniszeski. I'm always happy to connect, answer questions about what we're doing. I always say that I learn more from other advisors than anybody. And so I love to have dialogue and kind of hear what other people are doing. There's so many people who have been so gracious with their time with me over the years of asking questions and stuff like that. I always try to return the favor. So please reach out, and I'm always happy to connect.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Jordan. And be sure to like and subscribe to the WealthStack podcast on all major podcasting platforms, and follow all things WealthStack on WealthManagement.com, LinkedIn, and X. And if you want the in-person experience, join us in Marina Del Rey, October 7th and 8th for our RA LA event. And thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, if it doesn't streamline your stack, maybe it's time to whack it.